All right, we are live, and I am here with my good friend Damien and my good friend Mr. Bills fan in the background here. Let's go, man. Let's hit the
Let's hit
intro.
it.
All right, awesome. So we're gonna start right out with my Chiefs Bills game, right, Damien?
Yep. This is all about you, man. Congratulations to your Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes proved that he could do it on the road. That was the biggest question that people had for him. Like you said, they've played road games before because he's been to the Super Bowl. So
Yep.
he's experienced road games before as it is, but this was supposed to be hostile environments. Everything else to that effect, man, with it. So the floor is yours. This is about
Yeah,
you, your Chiefs going to what is it, the sixth consecutive AFC Championship
sixth
game?
consecutive
Yeah.
AFC
All
Championship
for you,
game,
man.
which is
All for you.
second longest streak in history. The first longest streak is, of course, the Patriots. They did it 8 times in a row, which is pretty amazing. But because we won this past weekend, we have a chance to chase that. So that's great. We have the opportunity to chase that. But the focus needs to be on next week. However, we are going to talk about the Bills and the Chiefs game, and I'm trolling the Bills fans a little bit with my guy in the background here. And I know I said last time, hey, like I have no beef with the Bills fans, and that's true. I don't. But the Bills fans, I will say, it wasn't all of them, but a lot of them got a little out of control in this game, and a little did some stuff that, come on, man, you gotta be better than that. Um, so I heard on New Heights that there was some stuff said pregame, like when they were walking into the stadium that like crossed the line. So people that do that, man, come on, dude, it's just football. It's just football. You can give people talk trash, do all that kind of stuff, but and have some class. And then you sent me a a link of Gabe Davis kind of going at it with some Bills fans, and I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting. Like, why Gabe Davis didn't even play? Why are you yelling at him?
I
You know,
think
I
that's why
don't.
they were yelling at him because he didn't play. I think that's what they were upset
He's a
about.
professional athlete, man. You get injured every now and then. Like, give the guy a break. I thought Khalil Shakur filled in fantastic in that role all year, and I thought he gave them a lot in that game. And I don't know what you want, dude. Like every time, I was amazed watching the broadcast. Every time they would kind of pop up, hey, Chiefs Bills so far are dead even in points scored in this, back and forth series. They're dead even in this. They're dead even in that. And at one point, I think in the late third quarter, early fourth quarter, it was literally that they had scored the exact same amount of points in the series. They had the exact same amount of yards in the game, and it was like, dude, there is not a possibility of having a more even matchup than Bills Chiefs. And like we get it. I understand the Chiefs, the Bills fans' frustrations that unfortunately it seems they only come up on top of the Chiefs in the regular season. So I understand the frustration, but hey, man, you still got to respect what those guys are doing out there. Bills, you got a fantastic quarterback. You got some really awesome players. And hey, what's up, Marlon? How's it going, man? Good to see you. You got to respect those. You got to respect those guys for what they're doing, man. Like, don't beat guys up. And then the snowball thing, like, I was a little frustrated with that. Like, it doesn't bother me that much, but I guess what bothered me about it is that I guess last week they were warned about it and told that if they hit anybody, they were going to have a penalty against them. And then this week, the Bills organization had sent out some material and kind of said, "Hey, just don't do it, please. Like, it's not good." And then I'm seeing in the game, like in plays in the end zone, where they're hitting people with snowballs and they're hitting their own players, and it's like, come on, man.
Hey, man,
I
I'll tell you this: Bills fans still got nothing on Eagles fans compared to that. Compared to that,
yeah,
that's Eagles fans are crazy with that. I'll send you some videos on that. Eagles fans, as far as snowball fighting goes and throwing snowballs, they're nuts. But I'll let you go back to your Chiefs.
no, I get it, man. Like I've heard all the stories, and the Chiefs have been in some games where people are throwing snowballs with like batteries stuffed in them and stuff like that. So I get it. We've been in worse. I just was a little disappointed in some of the Bills fans' behavior, but I don't think it was overall everybody because Jason Kelsey said he was having an amazing time at the game, and they were, yeah. He said he was in there with Bills Mafia, throwing it around and drinking and having a good time. So, good on them for that, man. And just the people that are being trashy, stop being trashy, dude. Like, I get it, it sucks, but it's just a game. In the end, talk about actual football. The Bills had a good game plan, I thought, and they had brought out their jumbo package with that extra offensive lineman. I couldn't find the exact number of snaps anywhere, but I'm pretty sure it was over 20 times that they, yeah. Marlon just commented, hey, they
Yes.
heard they turned the hot water off on the Chiefs. Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, I heard that
Which
as
is,
well.
come on, bro. Like, come on. We ain't doing that to you guys when you play us at Arrowhead. Like, come on.
Well, you guys are always winning, so
Yeah.
you got to worry about doing that. After minute.
Right. Maybe we should start doing stuff when we win too. But that jumbo personnel, that was their biggest, best thing. I think they kind of went away from it towards the end of the game, which I think was still a mistake, man. Like, I know time is an issue, but that was your most successful offensive package and your most successful game plan is to go with that large six offensive lineman package and run the ball straight at them, often with Josh Allen, who was probably their most effective runner. But Cook had a good game too, not knocking Cook. They weren't as effective in the passing game, and no one really has been against the Chiefs, so it didn't surprise me that they stayed away from that. They did have the drop from Diggs that he should have had it, and then the 1-16. What's his name? Do you remember him?
I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, I thought he could have had that one, but that's
Shakir,
it. Khalil Shakir's number 10. 16.
number 10.
Yeah, he's kind of a role player guy. 16 is. I don't
Is
remember
it
his name.
Sherfield?
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. He could have had that, but that would have been a damn hard catch. But that being said, it was a dot from Allen. Like, that was the only place it really could have been to keep it out of trouble.
Yeah, Allen threw some good balls in that game, and Allen made some plays in that game. My takeaway watching that game was I was ultimately impressed with Mahomes. Um, Everyone already knows Mahomes is a great quarterback. After watching that game with him on the road, going to Buffalo, facing that hostility, and not having a road game before, it looked like he was on a mission that game. He lit up the Chiefs, or lit up the Bills, I should say. That biggest takeaway that I took on from that game is the Bills were effective when they got the Chiefs to the third down situations. Chiefs finished that game 1 of 5. The problem is they couldn't get them to third down. Until the fourth quarter, the Chiefs only had 3 third downs that whole game, other than kneel on the ball and stuff to that effect with it. So, I mean, hats off to Mahomes. Hats off to Andy Reid. Andy Reid called a great game plan. I thought they had a great stuff drawn up. The biggest takeaway also from that game is the Chiefs receivers made plays downfield where the Bills receivers didn't make the plays. And that's also another big takeaway from that game, in my opinion, with that.
And I got a guy that I got to bring up because I've been very, very hard on him, and rightfully so, to be completely honest. But MVS came up big in that game, and he deserves all the credit in the world for coming up big. He did some things in that game that I've expected him to do since he got here. He is a little bit to me like Frank Clark was for us. Like, Frank Clark was always – that dude didn't show up in the regular season at all. And he was always hurt and always, like, just not really doing much. And then come around playoff time, all of a sudden playoff Clark came, and he's Clark the Shark again. And it was weird, man. Like, if you look at Frank Clark's career, he owns a bunch of super weird playoff stats and records, and it's, like, pretty high up on the list. I want to say he's third all time in career sacks in the playoffs. And to me, Frank Clark isn't the guy I think of when I think about a guy that's in the top 3 of playoff sacks. But he is. So, but MVS is kind of turning into that a little bit, where he's showed up in the playoffs for us really well. Definitely did last year. So, hats off to him. I do want to talk about some interesting numbers a little bit before we move on too much. So let's go right here. Hopefully, the people will be able to see this. So time of possession is a lie, as usual. I like it's important, man, and you can play the time of possession game, and it has its place, but it's not a guarantee to win a football game. And some people talk
No.
about it as if it's a guarantee to win a football game, and it's not. They almost doubled the Chiefs in time of possession. They nearly doubled the Chiefs in offensive plays. Yet they only had 7 more offensive yards. So, how effective was that? And you look at yards per play, 7.7 yards per play versus 4.7 yards per play. And that's a little bit because the Bills were leaning on the run game as opposed to the Chiefs kind of threw the ball around a little bit. Penalties were about even. One thing I was really happy about that, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong because I don't want to be a homer, but I didn't feel like the referees made an impact on that game.
Oh no, not at all. I thought they let them play. Penalties that should have been called were called. There's always going to be some missed penalties called, and missed penalties in the game. That's going to happen from time to time, and things to that effect with it. But I didn't think they were a big factor at all
No,
with that whatsoever.
I'm with you on that. Each team had 3 touchdowns. The missed field goal obviously ends up being the difference.
Wide right
And
again.
wide right again. That hurts, man. And that's why this guy behind me's crying. And I get it, dude. Like, that's emotional. I don't think this guy's old enough to probably have really experienced the Scott Norwood pain. But maybe he is. And, like, that's got to be painful for those guys that were in that stadium and that were maybe in that stadium. Or, well, they wouldn't have been in that stadium because that was Scott Norwood was in the Super Bowl. But maybe they
Yeah.
went and saw Scott Norwood, and the Bills at the Super Bowl. Can you imagine witnessing somebody in that stadium this last weekend was also at that Super Bowl? And that had to be
Odds
painful.
are probably so. Yeah.
So hearts out to those guys. Turnovers, we ended up with a turnover, that big turnover for McCole Hardman. I think maybe you probably just don't put him in that situation personally. And I don't know, maybe if I was
Oh,
the
you shouldn't
Bills.
be handing the ball off to a wide receiver right there. That was, I don't know.
Yeah. What? And to me, like, once you get there and you've been running the ball the way you've been running the ball, can we not just hand the ball to Pacheco 3 times there?
Yeah, that's my takeaway from that. Give it to someone that's used to carrying the ball, things to that effect with it. But it was a game changing play that kept Buffalo in that game
Yeah.
after they did the fake punt, of course, which I didn't agree with that call at all either.
And I'm not going to pull a Buffalo Bills fans and go and uh, rally for them to change a rule because I lost. Or, well, we didn't win. We didn't lose, so we won. So I guess no need to change the rule.
So what is your thought about that fumbling through the end zone? What's your thought about that?
As an offensive guy, I kind of get it. To be honest, like the offense should be penalized in some way, shape, or form for fumbling there. I don't think it should be a get out of jail free card if that rolls through the end zone there. A touchback and change of possession, I think maybe is a little harsh. I think you could make an argument that maybe, hey, you push the offense back to the 20-yard line. I would be I would be okay with that kind of. Okay, now it's 2nd and 20. Now it's a 2nd and goal from the 20. I think that's probably enough of a penalty, but I'm not going to argue to change it just because it happened to the Chiefs. I think it's a fair rule. There needs to be some penalty for the offense to not hold onto the damn ball.
I think the rule the way it's set up. I really do. I truly do like the rule the way it's set up. It cost Dallas earlier this year against Detroit as well. C.D. Lamb had a catch, fumbled through the end zone. Detroit got the ball. But I agree with the rule because, like they said, the end zone is sacred ground. It's kind of how it's described. Ryan Clark had a great take on First Take earlier this week, and I completely agree with it and everything else. It is sacred ground for the end zone. The end zone is the only place where a receiver can catch it, get his toes down just barely, get hit and lose the ball, and they're going to call it a touchdown right off the bat. That's the only area that they'll let that happen in. You could cross the point of the ball over the goal line before you fumble the ball, and they will call it a touchdown. So therefore, I'm good with them keeping that rule that way.
Yeah, I don't have any real strong feelings about it one way or the other, to be completely honest. I can see that argument. I could also make an argument and say, Well, if it's sacred ground, then defend it, man. Because why are you getting free lollipops just for somebody making a mistake there? Because, I mean, you didn't recover the ball. Why do you get possession of the ball all of a sudden? Why do you get a free reward? I I don't know. Like I said, I don't really feel strongly one way or the other. The change of possession thing, I think maybe a bridge too far, but I would be willing to hear an argument that hey, that's the way it should be. I like I said, no strong feelings about it. I think it's fine the way it is. I wouldn't want to see a rule change. I guess is my argument. If maybe a year from now, if some other team wanted to change, I don't want the Chiefs to rally for a rule change. Is what I'm saying. I do not want that. I
Gotcha.
do not want the Chiefs to ask for a rule change. I hated when Buffalo asked for a rule change because they lost in overtime. Wah, cry me a river. And I actually had a little bit of kind of a hope in the back of my mind that this game would go to overtime. The Bills would get the ball first, run down, score a touchdown, and then Patrick Mahomes would get the ball and go down and score a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and they would lose because the rule that they changed. Just because,
Yeah.
like, it's a little bit of a come on, dude. We're gonna change rules because you lost. Quit crying. That's my opinion on that. But yeah, but back to a couple of the stats real quick. 73.9% completion percentage for the Chiefs, which just as you alluded to, man, phenomenal play by Patrick Mahomes. Played nearly a perfect game, and he didn't rack up a ton of passing yards. It was only 215 with 2 touchdowns, but the play was phenomenal. Yards per completion were 12.6 versus 7.2 for the Bills. They had a 66.7% completion percentage. Yards per attempt were 4.8 for Buffalo, 9.3 for the Chiefs. And you and I had talked about this previously, kind of before we got on camera. It seemed like a lot of Buffalo's passing game was focused on screens and short yardage passes.
Yeah, it most definitely was. 16 of Josh Allen's completions were behind the line of scrimmage. Josh Allen didn't have a receiver average over 10 yards a carry, except for the running back, Ty Johnson, who had 1 catch for 14 yards. He had more yards rushing than any of his receivers did. So people love Josh Allen. He made some great plays, especially the touchdown on that 3rd down and 13, I think, at the goal. 3rd and goal from the 13. Great pass play, great effort there by him. Yes, that was great effort. He threw.
And that was a dot. He couldn't have done anything else about it. That was a perfect pass.
No, it was even the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. He just put his hands up and just kind of clapped his hands to Josh Allen on that because there was nothing else that could be done on that play.
Absolutely.
The biggest takeaway, also another big takeaway that I take from that game is the fact that going into that game, the Chiefs hadn't given up 30 points. And it looked like Buffalo was going to get there. They got to 24, but couldn't get to that 30. And Chiefs, of course, get the victory on that. Buffalo would have probably needed 30 points to win that game, and they could not get there. So credit to the Chiefs. Their defense played great, especially in the second half of that game. So hats off to Kansas City with that. I can't say enough about how great it – I'm not necessarily saying great it was, but how much Mahomes especially impressed me to where I know we're going to go into this other game, but if Mahomes beats Baltimore, Mahomes is clearly in my top 2 to 3 of all time at that point.
Yeah.
I'll already say that. If he goes in and beats Baltimore, that's where he's already at.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, man. I do want to talk about a couple more stats before we move on. Just and it's kind of to build into some of these other games too. It's not necessarily just for this game. The Bills, obviously, they ran the ball very well. They were committed to the run. They ran the ball 39 times. Some of those are Josh Allen scrambles. They're not called runs, but they still go down as a carry. So 39 carries for 182 yards and 4.7 yards a carry. I think if you tell a Buffalo Bills fan or you tell a Chiefs fan or you tell anybody that the Bills are going to have 40 carries and 182 yards and 4.7 yards a carry in the divisional game, I think everybody says, well, the Bills won that game. But the ability of Spagnuolo to adjust in the second half of games has really been the difference for a lot of our games that we've won, and this was no exception. Also, I think, if you are running the ball that much, you expect your passer rating to be very high. And we have alluded to that maybe in some of the past shows that we've done where we talk about guys that are using play action and run the ball well. They become different quarterbacks. Josh Allen's passer rating was only 86.1. Mahomes was 131.6. That's pretty good.
Yeah. He was brilliant. He was.
Yeah.
He was brilliant.
Another thing to point out about the run game is the Chiefs didn't run as much, but they got more yards per carry. Sorry about that. I don't know if I did that or the producer Damien might have done that. Whatever. No big deal. We had a little boo-boo there. 6.1 yards per carry. 6.1 yards per carry for the Chiefs rushing game. You probably could have ran the ball a little bit more for my taste. But, hey, man, it's working, so I'm happy with it. But that's kind of my last take, I guess. Third down efficiency wasn't great for either team, really. Red zone efficiency, the Chiefs got to get better. That really comes down to that Cole Hardman fumble that we already talked about. So no need to really go into that any further. Both teams had 2 forced fumbles, and the Bills were able to get back on both of those. One of them was at a really huge time where if the Chiefs scooped and scored that last fumble, that game was –
Yeah, that was by Josh Allen.
Yep, that was over.
Yes.
So, yep, that's kind of my takeaway on that game, man. Good job to the Chiefs, but we got a big, big job ahead of us. And honestly, my last little I'm going to be a little bit of a fan here. And, hey, man.
No, be a fan, man. That's what we are. We're fans. Be a fan.
Hey, if this is a down year for the Chiefs, if the Chiefs make it to the AFC Championship game in a down year, everybody else is screwed. You're screwed. Like, that's the way it is. We're going to be better next year. If all those people that are hoping and praying that the Chiefs are going to be worse next year, it's not going to happen, man. Like, the cap situation gets better. The draft situation gets better. You get to correct that wide receiver room, which was a mistake. Good luck. Good luck. Yeah, you might lose Chris Jones. You might. Maybe you let Snead walk. Maybe. But we've been notoriously good at getting corners. It's not going to be a worse team. I'm telling you, it's going to be a better team next year. So, buckle up.
I will say this. If you guys win it this year, I think Kelce might retire. I think he might do it.
Just from what he said, like, I understand where you're coming from. I think he's chasing history a little bit. I think he wants to go down as the greatest tight end of all time. And I think he's got some stuff to make up for there. Gronk played quite a bit of time, and he started younger than Kelce did. They're the same age, but Gronk started in the NFL before Kelce did, partially because Kelce wanted to smoke some weed. It's just the truth.
Allegedly. I guess depends on which state. Depends on which state you're in. It's okay.
Back then, I don't think it was okay anywhere. I don't know. Like, that was pretty early on. Maybe California was legal. Maybe Colorado was legal back then. But he was, and it was. He tested at a bowl game. He's talked about it on the podcast, so it's not like a secret. But
yeah, he has.
Yeah, he kind of cost himself a little bit with that, and started in the NFL a little bit later than Gronk. But that's who he's chasing, in my opinion. I mean, you can argue Gonzalez, and Gonzalez certainly played longer and had the durability and the I don't know what you want to call it, sustainability in the league that you can argue with. But I don't know, man. To me, he's the best pass-catching tight end of all time, and people don't give him enough credit for his run blocking either. So we'll see. Depends on how he feels. I think he's chasing history. But that's my take on the Chiefs. Bills, congratulations on a great season, man. No hard feelings from my end. I know I'm trolling you with the guy in the background, but it's just all for fun. And then Yeah, it is what it is. What game do we want to go next to?
Let's go ahead and roll. Let's roll into Baltimore, Houston.
Okay.
Get the AFC matchup kind of done real
I've
fast.
been talking for a minute. Let's hear you talk.
Baltimore, of course, dominated that game. Yeah. So Baltimore dominated that game, held Houston to 10 first downs. CJ Stroud, while he did look like a rookie for the most part that game, I thought he didn't play horrible that game. I just think Baltimore's defense is that good. Seemed like Houston was going to get a spark with that punt return. That proved to be Houston's only touchdown that game. But Houston's going to be a very good and up and coming team. They're going to have cap room. They're going to be able to do a lot of stuff. And I think people are going to want to go play for the Houston Texans and get them boosted up with that. Now, going into Baltimore, I cannot say enough about Lamar Jackson. That guy is just phenomenal. From what I've heard, for backstory, is he kind of led a speech at halftime of that game to get his team fired up and get him back into the game a little bit more. He wouldn't say what he said or anything to that effect with it, but that's the words that I'm hearing from him. The guy finished 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing, rushed for over 100 yards. He's going to put stress on that Chiefs defense that has been very great this year. The Ravens defense has been great. The Ravens have beaten 8 teams above 500 by 14 points or more, and that's tied for an NFL record. So we'll see what happens going into this game coming up. But the Ravens have dominated all NFC opponents. Detroit came in there. Baltimore beat them down. Seattle went in there. Baltimore beat them down. They went to San Francisco, boat raced San Francisco, which caught me completely off guard. So I'm looking forward to this matchup very much so for Baltimore versus Kansas City. I think it should be a really good game. My kind of dark horse for Baltimore this game is going to be Dalvin Cook. I'm curious on how they're going to use him coming up in this game against Kansas City, especially since Buffalo proved that you can run the ball on Kansas City a little bit. But I think some of that was probably Kansas City's strategy as well to kind of contain Josh Allen a little bit more, take away big plays as much as possible. And I think they kind of opened up the run a little bit more for Buffalo. Just figure they'll make stops when they need to make stops in that game. So we'll see where this goes to. What's your thoughts? Are you worried about Baltimore give you a little bit of a scare?
Oh, absolutely. They're a fantastic football team, man. Like all respect to Baltimore, and I love Lamar. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I love watching him play. I love the kid. I love hearing him talk. Like, just I think he's such a happy guy. Like he's like, to me, he's a guy I'd want to be on a team with, right? Like I would want Lamar as my teammate. So super excited for him, and I'm sorry that it's going to end this way, bro. Sorry that it's going to end this way for you, Lamar. But not yet. You ain't going to the Super Bowl yet. um, but all jokes aside, man.
He said this is the year he gets to get there.
Yeah, man. And hey, if he does, all respect to him, man. Like I don't want to say that. Hey, the Chiefs are just happy to be there because we're not. Like they won another Super Bowl. Those guys on that team won another Super Bowl. I think they feel a little bit disrespected this year. I think nobody was thinking that they could make it this far. At times I didn't think they could make it this far, but a couple weeks they started showing signs of life a couple weeks ago. And hey, man, anything's possible when you get in the playoffs. And I did say about week 17 was like, do you want to bet against the Chiefs? I wouldn't bet against the Chiefs if I was a betting guy. And that's kind of my measurement is people can talk a lot of crap, but pull your wallet out. Pull your wallet out. And how many people would pull their wallet out and put any kind of significant money to go against the Chiefs? I wouldn't, man. Even if I hated the Chiefs, I wouldn't do that. I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. Ain't no way. Ain't no way I'm betting against Patrick Mahomes. That being said, I want to talk about the Ravens in this Texans game. 42 carries, 229 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Both of those were Lamar, correct? Damien? Both of those touchdowns were correct. Lamar on the ground? Yeah. And then
yes, correct.
Okay. 72.7% completion percentage out of Lamar. Only 123 yards through the air, but they were very effective yards. You can't take those away. I think you're going to need to be more balanced against the Chiefs. I think you're going to need to get something done in the air more than 123 yards. I don't think 123 yards in the passing game is going to get it done because let's be straight, the Texans, you bullied them a little bit, you pushed them around, and that's not the Chiefs' defense, man. Like, sorry, if you think because the Bills did what they did to the Chiefs' defense that you're going to come in and do what you did to the Texans' defense, slow down because it's not the same thing. So I would say they need to have a little bit more of a balanced game plan going into the game with the Chiefs, and for their sake, I hope they get that figured out. Because what if your running game isn't quite the same? You know, what if you're not getting it? Are you going to be able to fling it around? And traditionally, Spags has had a really good game plan to stop Lamar and make Lamar look like a very average quarterback. And if he does it again, if he goes back in time and pulls that same game plan out, it's going to depend a lot on Lamar throwing down the field. And I know he can do it, but he doesn't have Mark Andrews. He doesn't have the best wide receivers in the league. He's got some nice weapons, but they're not elite. So Mark Andrews is elite.
Well, Mark Andrews is 50-50. He's 50-50.
Is he 50-50? They need him.
Yeah, he practiced last week. They decided to go ahead and hold him out. So I'm curious if they give him a shot going this week. So we'll see about that with him on that. How is your guys' left guard, your all-pro guard? I haven't heard a final report.
I think he's kind of the same kind of deal. It's a strained pec. It's my gut feeling that I don't think you're going to be able to keep Tooney out. I think he'll force his way into that lineup unless a medical doctor says no, you know. So hopefully he'll play. Back to my thoughts on this Texans-Ravens games real quick. Like, to me, I know people are going to think I'm being a little bit of a homer here, and maybe I am, but that first half, I thought the Ravens looked pretty beatable. I wasn't impressed with their offense in the first half. I thought they started to walk away and kind of dog walk the Texans in the second half when I feel like their depth caught up with the Texans and their running game caught up with the Texans. And then they would just kind of were able to do whatever they wanted. Because if I remember right, they went in half 10-10, did they not?
Yes, 10-10 at the half. But Houston's only touchdown, like I said, came off that punt return.
Yep. Yeah. True. That defense is fantastic and all that kind of stuff. But again, you know, you're not facing a rookie this year, or this week. So I was not impressed with their third down efficiency of either team in this game. They were both identical, 33% third down efficiency. Baltimore did go for it twice on fourth down, got both of those, so good for them. The really impressive part of Baltimore's offense for me is their red zone efficiency. They were really, really good, 4 for 5, also known as 80%. So really good there. And they did all that on defense. Everything that they did on defense, they did without Marlon Humphrey. So he'd probably be back this week, I assume. I haven't looked at the injury report or anything like that yet. But, you know, pretty good overall from the Ravens. You can't really ask for much more. They dominated that game, like you said. They did everything they're supposed to do, and that defense is historic and phenomenal and really fun to watch. So I'm excited about this game coming up next week. But good job, Ravens.
Yep. But everything I'm hearing is the Baltimore home crowd is underrated from what I've heard from some NFL players speaking on ESPN and other broadcast networks and things to that effect with it, is that people are underestimating this Baltimore home crowd and the atmosphere. They say it's almost like a college atmosphere. They say it's way better than actual Buffalo's atmosphere that they actually have for their home games from what I've been hearing. So I'm curious on that. As far as Baltimore's run game goes, I know they feel run heavy. I've never been a fan of their actual running attack. The thing that makes them so hard to stop is just Lamar. You can't account. It's like I said, you can play the perfect defense. You can have everything called perfect, everything set up, but you can't account for Lamar's athletic ability and keep him plays alive, and then he comes down and makes a throw. And it's almost kind of the same way with Patrick Mahomes on the flip side. Patrick Mahomes does the same exact thing. You can blitz him. He steps aside. Next thing you know, he's burning you deep. when you had them lined up and everything else. So it's going to be a real fun, interesting game. The big game that always reminds me when last time I remember watching Baltimore play Kansas City was the first time they actually showed Mahomes doing the no look pass. I don't know if you remember that in Kansas City when Baltimore had him dead to rights, and Mahomes is rolling right and throwing passes all the way back crossfield and everything else to that effect with it. So I am really looking forward to this game. Odell, I'm curious on who they put Snead on, if they're going to put him on Flowers, the rookie. I don't know how much the Chiefs actual travel Snead around, or if they keep him on one side. Do they travel him?
They travel him when there's an elite wide receiver.
When there's an elite receiver?
Yeah. I don't think they'll travel him this week. I really don't. I think they're just going to leave him and Peters alone, because when you do that, when you leave him and don't travel him, I'm preaching to the choir here with you, but you get to disguise your coverages a little better. So I don't foresee them traveling, and I don't see the Ravens use a ton of motion. I know they do use some, but they don't motion a ton. So I think they're going to leave the guys on one side of the field. I think they'll pass off motions and disguise the coverages a little bit better, because I don't think there's any guy. Rashad Bateman on that team is where's he been? Like, he's disappeared. Flowers is kind of their dude, and then Odell can still have games. Like, Odell's still a guy that you got to account for. The Ravens defense, man, I wanted to ask you this. The Ravens defense is a little blitz heavy. Like, I don't have the numbers right in front of me. I'll see if I can pull them up while you're talking. But it hasn't traditionally been a good idea to blitz Patrick Mahomes. If you were a team that normally did that, as a defensive coordinator, would you want to stick with your identity, or would you look at the history of blitzing Patrick Mahomes and say it never works? We're not doing that.
Oh man, that is a good question. I would say you stick closer to your identity, but make sure you're doing it in the right spots. I would guess. What I would say.
Pick your spots.
I wouldn't sit there and be blitz happy against the guy. It's a pick and choose spots. Initially, I might come out and be kind of bland, maybe start off a little bit more conservative, and then see how the game's going. If my line is getting there without having to blitz, then I'm not blitzing. You know what I mean? Even if that's my normal identity, if my defensive line can get there without blitz, and if I can just rush 4 or 5, I mean, I guess 5 is considered a blitz. But if I can just get away with that and keep everybody else back in coverage to where I don't necessarily have to run zero coverage as much, I'm good with that. The biggest question, I guess, for me is this Chiefs team, the way it's built, I'm not so afraid of the wide receivers, except for Rice. Rice has been stepping up his game. Everyone else, I'm comfortable leaving man-to-man, of course, besides Kelsey and things of that effect with it. So, I mean, that's the biggest question is, do you have someone that you feel can take Rice out of this game? If they feel like they do, if Humphrey can come out and play and they feel like they can do that, I'm not as afraid to be bringing pressure against Mahomes in this type of situation, especially if your all-pro guard's not going to be there. I'm doing everything I can to put stress on that offensive line.
So if you were them, would you just put Hamilton on Kelsey and Humphrey on Rice and go to town on the blitz and tell, hey, those other guys need to beat us?
I don't know. Like, Kelsey's so good. I don't want him and Mahomes to get into a rhythm because I feel like that's going to start opening up other things because you're going to start feeling the pressure of that. So I don't know if I want to necessarily do that. Roquan Smith is someone I'm going to look at that's going to kind of shadow Kelsey as well, and that's with that defense. So we'll see. I can't say that I've watched Baltimore Ravens defense a ton this year, so that's something I haven't done. I've been more focused on NFC stuff and things to that effect with it. So I haven't watched Baltimore's defense a ton. But I do know Roquan Smith has made a huge difference to that team. They're solid, man. They're solid. I don't know what else to say about this Baltimore Ravens defense. They are just solid all the way around. And I could see this being this is just a tough game to grade because I don't want to underestimate and not give Mahomes enough credit or anything to that effect with it. And these two quarterbacks are both such wild cards for this offense. to where,
Well, I'll tell you
like I
this,
said, you
against
can
the
make the perfect
Texans.
play and everything else.
Yeah. Against the Texans, the Ravens ran cover 0 11% of the time. That's a lot of cover 0. Um, they're in cover 6 a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they do like their zone. It's not like they don't run zone or they're man heavy all the time. They did run 18% cover 1. So between cover 0 and cover 1, you're at, I don't know, almost 30% there of your coverages being man coverage, with probably a blitz element out of those cover 1s as well. So yeah, they bring it a lot, but they do run that cover 6 a lot too. So they're definitely a mixed coverage kind of team. It'll be, whoa, we lost Damian there. Hopefully he'll be back. Let's just switch to me real quick. So uh, yeah, so Aiden is saying in the chat that, hey, we want to see Kyle Hamilton against Travis Kelce. Typically, safeties has not been the way to go against Kelce. I think you're back. Hold on. Let's see if you're back. You are back. Welcome back. I didn't get to. Hello? Are you freezing up there? Okay, well, we'll just keep talking until he gets his stuff straight. I think he's there and almost back. Safeties have not been able to typically be the answer. You have to use a combination of linebackers beating Kelce up at the line and then safeties finishing with coverage. And that's kind of, you have to double cover him. Even in his old age, still have to double cover him. That's just kind of the way that is. But we've kind of gone off on a tangent. We're supposed to be covering these games that already happened. So let's go. I think just me and Damien are both super excited about this Ravens Chiefs game. Obviously, I'm a Chiefs fan, so I'm going to be excited about it. But even if I wasn't a Chiefs fan, I'd be very excited about this Ravens Chiefs game because it's just such a cool matchup. You have a fantastic defense. You have two fantastic defenses, and hold on, I'm doing multiple different things here. Damien seems to be back. Let's check in on him.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, there
All
you're
right.
back. Nice.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We're back, man.
All right.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
I don't know
correct,
what happened
Aiden.
there.
Hamilton is a little bit more
All right.
of a box safety, and he's not particularly fantastic in coverage. He's okay at it, but he is more of a box safety. But do you want to take Aiden? Do you want to take a guy that's not known for his coverage and put that guy one-on-one with Kelce? Not me. I want to make it, and I don't know if you were going in this direction, Damien. I talked while you were gone. I was going to say, in order to take care of Kelce, you kind of need to use a combination of a linebacker and a safety. And usually, the guys that are really effective are the guys that kind of beat Kelce up at the line with the linebacker and release him to a safety to finish the job. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, that was actually my thoughts with Hamilton. He's going to be big and he's going to be physical, and if he's able to go and he can actually jam Kelce along with Roquan or whoever else they decide to put in that role, because Roquan's a very physical linebacker as well, I think that can give the Chiefs some problems, especially with timing between him and Mahomes. Just to give that defensive line time to get there and get a pass rush going and just kind of get some things disrupted and things of that effect with it. So that's definitely for me a possibility of stuff that can happen for the Baltimore Ravens in this situation.
And we'll get more into this game as hopefully we'll probably have another stream later this week to talk about the upcoming games. Yeah, you're coming in and out a little bit, man, but it's no big deal. We can make it work. You're frozen up right now, man. Let's see. Play man on man. Yeah, they're going to play a lot of man on man, Aiden. They play about 30% of the time they play man on man. Oh, I don't know if you missed out on that part or not. If I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But yeah, they play cover 0, 11% against the Texans. They played cover 1, something like 18%. So really close to a 30% rate in man coverage there. And then, yeah, I can hear you, Damien. You're back. So we're all good. So what's our next game, Damien?
Okay. I don't know what's going on. I apologize. Yeah.
Oh, no worries.
We can do a quick review. Yeah, we can do a quick review on the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. Um, 49ers continue their dominance over the playoffs over the Green Bay Packers. Been 4 straight over Green Bay in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They That game to me was closer than it would have been if Debo Samuel wouldn't have got hurt. I think San Francisco had to do a big adjustment once Debo went down that game to their offensive game plan. According to Kittles, I heard him in an interview. He expected Debo to have 3 touchdowns that game based on the game plan that they came out with. And once he went down, I think San Francisco had to really adjust because a lot of the stuff they like to do with Debo, they can't do with other players in that lineup. So came to an adjustment. They had to get a little bit more conservative, I think. Christian McCaffrey touched the ball 24 times. They tried to get it to him, or he touched the ball 27 times, I believe. They tried to get it to him 34 times based on targets and everything else to that effect with it. So he became a big part of their playmaking and things to that effect with it. Green Bay did a great job of actually shutting down the run, other than that 40-yard breakaway that McCaffrey had. And I know McCaffrey was struggling with some quad and some calf injuries, so I'm curious on how healthy he fully is and how explosive he's going to be going through this game. Mm-hmm. Green Bay, on the other hand, great season for the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love finally proved to be the Jordan Love that I was expecting to show up the previous week, throwing 2 interceptions, throwing the ball across his body and trying to do those type of things. Wish he would have done it the previous week, but Dallas did nothing to make him uncomfortable whatsoever in that game. So congrats to Green Bay. They're on an uptick. They're pointed in the right direction. But San Francisco, to me, proved to be one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the best team in the NFC. And they're going to have a tough matchup coming up this week. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I just, again, want to emphasize great job by the Packers and congratulations to their fans. I know they weren't particularly expecting to be where they got. But, kind of as we talked about, I think athletes are never in a mindset of happy to be here. I think a lot of those guys on the bottom of the roster, man, they're thinking, hey, I may never be here again. I got to win this game. So heartbreaking for those guys to not be able to pull it off. And honestly, I thought there was a point in that game where I really felt like they were going to beat the 49ers. The 49ers didn't have their best game. And that needs to be a credit to the coaching staff and the players of the Packers. And yes, maybe the 49ers didn't execute this or that perfectly, but a lot of it has to do with the Packers and their game planning and the way they were executing stuff. And I don't know if you noticed, but I noticed a few times where LaFleur had called the perfect play to break match coverage and ended up with wide open players because he was using the rules of the defense against them.
Oh, most definitely with it. And granted, the Green Bay Packers, we can say they had a great game plan. They did decide to fire their defensive coordinator. He's no longer coming back with them, Joe Barry. So obviously there was something that they didn't connect with and things that affect with it. There was some blown coverages, some miscommunication that looked like a lot with their secondary and things to that effect with it. What's your thoughts on Brock Purdy? Do you think he's that guy that can get San Francisco over the top in a tough game? I mean, this was a tough game. He made throws when he needed to make the throws, so I can't take that away from him. He seemed really calm, but he also had some interceptions that were dropped early in that game by the Packers.
So one of my friends I hang out with all the time, he's a huge 49ers fan, and we kind of joke and talk about. So I know the 49ers pretty well, actually. I know the roster pretty well. I like the 49ers. And for some reason, it seems like whenever me and Jay play in a Super Bowl on Madden, like magically he'll throw a pick right to my defense, and the ball will just like clank off the guy's hands, And that's one of those picks that Brock Purdy that you're talking about. He threw it right to the defender, and I don't know how he dropped it. Man. So yeah, he got away with something.
He was shocked it came to him that easily, man.
Probably.
He was shocked. He was like, "What? Right here?"
Yeah, why you put that in my hands? Like, I'm not on your team. Mm-hmm. So I'm not bashing Brock by any means. I actually like Brock a lot. I don't know if he's that guy yet. I think he can develop into that guy. I don't think he had to this game because I think CMC did it for him. I think CMC was the guy. I think he is the
most definitely
MVP of that team. And I think that's why Brock is able to be as good as he is. And that's not a knock on Brock. It's just he is allowed to be a really efficient and good young quarterback because there's not as much pressure on him, and that's okay. It's not a knock. It's not anybody disrespecting Brock. It's just saying, hey, that's good coaching. That's good team football. That we're going to take a little bit of the pressure off of our young quarterback, and we're going to do things through our scheme with our run, and even in the passing game where Brock doesn't have to be a hero. Someday he's going to have to be a hero, and I don't know if he's that guy. I don't know. We're going to find out. I told Jay, my buddy Jay, I told him in that game, I was like, bro, this is the game, because they were down at one point. They were down by a touchdown late in that game, and I was like, okay, this is the game where I get to see if Brock Purdy's that guy, and Christian kind of took it out of his hands. So for me, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
No, but I'll give Purdy credit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I give Purdy credit because on that final drive, he did make some throws. He had some great catches by his receivers. Ayuk caught the one off his foot, basically, that in the driving rain and everything else to that effect with it. Wasn't a great throw, but a great catch by Ayuk. But he also put some other balls where they needed to be at. So credit to Brock Purdy. He did do a great job in that game. But I'll be really curious on where this goes. I really would have liked to seen that game come down to where I don't know why Jordan Love on first down threw that pass the way he threw it across his body. He was already outside the pocket, could have threw it away, could have ran for a few yards maybe. So I like to see how that game would have completely unfolded if he wouldn't have done that in that situation.
Yeah, I didn't get that play by Jordan Love. I think he went back to some of his old ways. I think for the most part he has progressed past that stuff, but I think in that particular instance, maybe it got to him a little bit, the pressure of the game, and he reverted a little bit to some of the stuff that I saw from Jordan Love early in his career when he got a couple starts while Aaron Rodgers was still there. He reverted back to some of that stuff that I didn't like about him, and it's unfortunate. You don't like to see it, but I think he'll be okay. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Jordan Love is now trash. Like, he had a great season. He made a stupid play, and I'm sure if he's the guy that everybody thinks he is, he'll never do that again. At least not in that same way.
We'll see. We'll find out.
He'll never go back across his body to the middle of the field.
We would definitely find out about that.
Yeah. Why would you ever do that again? I mean, if he's
playing the Cowboys.
Oh God, here we go, man.
I ain't gonna. I'll stop with it. Not gonna go into it. Where Cowboys are out. Well, I won't go into it or anything.
What happened to we hearing about the Cowboys, even if they're 17-0? You can't do it.
Hey, man, that's my squad, man. I can't help it. That's my squad. That's my squad. But
that's right, man.
That's my squad. But
I hear you, bro.
Congrats to San Fran. I've all year long said they were the best team in the NFC. So I think they're going to keep it going. They're going to have Detroit coming into town with that. That was a fun game to watch. Mike Evans made some great plays. Baker Mayfield, like we said, he's a very tough guy. I would love to have that guy as my quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, just with his swagger, the way he plays. I hate the interception that he threw at the end of that game, but that was also a great play by that linebacker for Detroit to pick that off and made that great play as well. Detroit, we're going to see how they go on the road. Jared Goff is not a great quarterback under pressure, so we'll see if Bosa can step up and ramp up and get some plays on him, but Detroit is a very solid offensive line. Detroit's run game is top-notch. Gibbs, everyone criticized Detroit for taking Gibbs as early as they did in that draft. Detroit seemed like a team that just said, these are the players we want. This is who we want. This is who we're picking. I don't care where they're supposed to go in the draft. And so I admire that for Detroit. I like that Detroit did that. They didn't care what the pundits or critics said or anything to that effect with it. They said, we're getting guys that are our style of player. And they definitely did that. As far as everything else goes, like I said, this game's going to come down ultimately to Goff. And we're going to see Goff's been to the Super Bowl. But the thing about Goff is he's never been seen as a high-pressure handle type quarterback. St. Brown, that guy is a beast. I would love to see the other receiver, Williams, step up a little bit more. He needs to get more consistent with making plays downfield. If he's able to do that, game could bust wide open for Detroit. Um, Hats off to Tampa, though. They advanced a little bit. They're going to have a lot of offseason moves to try to make up for and things of that effect with it because I don't think Mike Evans is coming back. We've talked about where Mike Evans might end up next year already. So they're going to have to re-sign Baker, do some things to that effect with it. But like I said, hats off to Tampa. Even though they do get to join watching Cowboys on the couch and things of that effect with it, but hats off to them. But Detroit going up to San Francisco should be a great game. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I will get into my thoughts really quickly with that, but I just want to wrap up with some stats from that game. So to kind of support some of my ideas for the game with San Francisco and the Lions. Time of possession was nearly even with the Packers. It was Packers 30 minutes 19 seconds and San Francisco 29-41. Like I said, time of possession doesn't always tell a full story. It's not a huge thing for me, but this one usually does tell a story. And they had almost identical plays, 62 offensive plays to 64 offensive plays. Offensive yardage was 330 for the Packers, 356 for the Niners. Yards per play was 5.3 for the Packers, 5.6 for the Niners. Penalties was an issue for the 49ers. They had 6 penalties, 83 yards penalized. So that's a big deal for them. They did end the game with more touchdowns, 3 touchdowns to 2. They only had 1 field goal, and Green Bay had 2. So Green Bay did have the missed field goal. So did the Niners as well. So those kind of washed each other out. And then turnovers was the real story of the game. The 2 turnovers, the 2 interceptions by Jordan Love. You kind of think, hey, if Jordan Love doesn't throw either one of those, that probably the 49ers lose that game. 59% completion percentage for Brock Purdy in that game is not fantastic. So not his best game. We kind of already alluded to that. But Jordan Love played a little worse, and that's what it came down to. Neither quarterback played very well. Jordan Love had a 72.4 quarterback rating, and Brock Purdy had an 86, which is average. It's okay. It's not bad, not good. So running was actually in favor. Yeah, running was actually in favor of the Packers. 28 carries, 136 yards, 4.9 yards per carry. The 49ers, 24 carries, 111 yards, 4.6 yards of carry, but they had 2 touchdowns on it, which kind of makes the difference there.
So. But that's also – you take out that 40-yard run from McCaffrey, and Green Bay did a great job against that run defense, against that running game. McCaffrey broke off that 40-yard run.
So this is actually
like I said, I think once Debo went out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, once Debo went out, like I said, I think that really hampered San Francisco's game plan for that game against Detroit. I think it really changed a lot of stuff for them for what they wanted to do, what they wanted to execute, try to get done for them. Go ahead with what you were saying about the run game.
No, yeah, I agree. This is why I kind of brought up the stats. I'll end with these last couple stats. Third down efficiency was in the favor of the 49ers. The Packers were only 54% on third down, and the 49ers weren't that great either. They were 63%, which is okay. And then red zone efficiency was 100% for the 49ers, 1 for 1. They were only in the red zone once, but they did cash it in. Red zone efficiency for the Packers was terrible. 2 of 5, 40%. That's not good enough. You have to do better in the red zone, and you win that football game. So that brings me to the reason why I wanted to go over those stats is going into the game with the Lions. That's a tough football team. It's not the Lions of old. And the 49ers better be careful because I picked those guys to be the best team in the NFC and to show it, and they didn't. They did not show that. The Packers could have easily won that game if they just cleaned their stuff up. They got in the way of San Francisco a little bit. They did some stuff to them. They took some of their stuff that they like to do away. And the 49ers didn't adjust all that well. Dre Greenlaw is the difference in that football game. He had 2 interceptions, man. Dre Greenlaw was a monster. And if Dre Greenlaw had set out that game, which he almost did, he was questionable for that game, maybe the 49ers don't win that football game. So going into with the
What's
Lions.
funny to me,
Yeah, go.
I was going to say, what's funny to me is that final interception he got. Remember how everyone was saying he needed to go down, and the crowd was chanting, or teammates were all screaming for him to go down. He was trying to take it for a pick six because he promised his teammates and he talked to his teammates that he was going to get a pick six that game. So he was going for the pick six, trying to get a touchdown on that. That's why he did not go down. Kittle says that guy probably has more broken tackles playing defense than any offensive player for the 49ers does, is what Kittles was saying about that. So I just thought that was kind of humorous when I heard that story a little bit.
Hell yeah, that's funny. And good for him, man. I was kind of watching him run the ball, and it's pretty clear, like, he can break some tackles for sure. He has no idea what he's doing running the football. Like, just go straight, man. Like, you're a big dude. You don't got to shake and bake and all that stuff. He's kind of running around in circles out there. But had he gone straight, they might have been in trouble, dude. Like, he might have got his pick six. He wasn't dancing quite so much. But yeah, Dre Greenlaw was the impact and was the difference.
He might have.
He was the difference in that game, bro. Like, and they're gonna need him against the Lions because the Lions are tough and they're not the Lions of old. And I'm excited about that game. I'm excited for the Lions. I have a bunch of buddies that are 49ers fans, and I typically pull for my buddies' teams if I don't have any dog in the fight. But just to be transparent, I am going to pull for the Lions in this game because I think that city deserves a freaking Super Bowl, man. Like, they deserve to at least go to one, even if we steal it away from them and make them cry. But I want them to go to a Super Bowl. I do. I want the Lions to go to a Super Bowl. Nothing against the 49ers. I didn't like the way they played in the divisional round. I think Dan Campbell can have them exploit some of the stuff. I think Detroit's defense is better than Green Bay's defense. I think that they will have the kind of mentality that you need to have to go play the 49ers. It's going to be a tough, gritty football game. The Lions are not going to be bullied in that game. And Aiden Hutchinson is going to be on fire. There's a lot of pieces that they have. This could be a very, very interesting football game with the Lions and the 49ers.
I know we talked about the other day. I would love to see Chase Young for San Francisco step up and make some plays because I do not recall him making any plays so far this year for San Francisco. I'm sure he's made plays. Like, I'm sure he's done some good things for him, but he hasn't made the game-changing plays that I would expect a number one draft pick to make. First or number two, I think he was the number 2 pick in that draft. For someone to be picked that high and to be that dominant from college, I know he's had a torn ACL and he's had some injuries that have slowed him down, but I would expect him to be more dominant, especially joining the type of defensive line that he's with, because he's not facing double teams or anything to that effect with it whatsoever. And also with Debo possibly being out, I expect Shanahan to have a much better game plan and being able to react better a little bit this week. So I'm curious on what he can draw up for him. But as far as the rooting interest or who I think is going to win or who I'm rooting for, if you made me pick a team, I'm going to pick San Francisco just because they're at home. But I'm not counting out Detroit. I'm not counting out Dan Campbell with the way he coaches that team up. He has them playing from where he was at. And I know everyone's always quick to want to fire coaches. His first year, he starts off, 0-10? I think is how his season started off, his first year in the league. Second year in the league, he starts off 1-7 or 1-8 at one point, 2-8, and he gets that team turned around, or they almost make the playoffs and everything else to that effect with it. And now into this year, I mean, he's done a phenomenal job with that squad. So I can't say enough about what he's done, the type of fight that he puts in there. He's a Bill Parcells guy, from what I understand, because he was a player under Parcells, kind of learned that development and that mentality with it, and he puts it forth to his team. His post-game locker room speech was great. I don't know if you got a chance to see that, but he talked about how they beat another hot team, but this is where they're supposed to be at, and they still got 2 more games to go. So, man, I'm going to pick San Francisco to win this game, but I will probably be rooting for Detroit. I know a lot of San Francisco fans like you do as well. I will probably be rooting for Detroit in this game, even though I've given San Francisco a ton of credit, and this is what San Francisco has been looking for all year. I'm going to root for Detroit, though.
Yeah, me too. I'm rooting for Detroit. I'll probably pick the 49ers. But, that's kind of the way it is with that one. With that, man, do you want to move on to the last game, Buccaneers-Lions?
Yeah, Buccaneers, Lions. I mentioned a few things about it earlier. Mike Evans, I thought, had a great game. Proved himself to still be one of the league's top receivers. Baker Mayfield, man, that guy is phenomenal. He just knows what to do. But be perfectly honest, Jared Goff really stepped up that game. He was dropping some dimes, threw a great touchdown pass in the fourth quarter. Just did a phenomenal job. I know one of the biggest takeaways at the end of that game was the fact that Tampa Bay didn't burn their last time out with about 30 seconds left, I want to say, in that game to force Detroit to kick a field goal. They left a timeout on the field, and they could have forced Detroit to try at least a long field goal with a little bit of time left, and you never know what's going to happen in that situation. But phenomenal job by Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs, like I said, proved himself. I don't know if you saw his run where he broke down Winfield and just kind of left him frozen in his steps while on his touchdown run, and then gave him a nice little stiff arm at the end. But Gibbs is a phenomenal player. Him and Montgomery is a great 1-2 punch that they got. Laporta coming in as a rookie, playing that way as a tight end. And I've always said it takes tight ends 2 to 3 years to get adjusted to the NFL, but they know how to use that guy and get him going. Detroit's offensive line is a beast.
Yet another Iowa tight end.
Yeah,
they just produce tight ends.
Iowa knows how to put out tight ends. That's what they do. Too bad that's the only position they can put out for the most part. That's all right.
Right.
As good as that's
they got some defensive guys. They got some, and they definitely have some offensive linemen. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah. They'll have a cornerback that goes first round. Yeah.
Hey,
they'll have a cornerback that goes first round this year too.
Is that the white boy? Do they have the white tight end or the white cornerback? There's a white cornerback this year. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yes. They'll probably move him to safety. Probably get moved to safety. That's what they do. They'll probably get moved to safety.
No, we gotta have one white corner.
Yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen with that guy.
Oh, who was the last
not some Sehorn, man.
White corner? Jason Sehorn, yeah.
Sehorn, Jason Sehorn. That was the last successful one. I don't remember if you remember seeing all those online memes and stuff like that, or all those online challenges when they talked about putting a black squad together versus a white squad and everything else like that for a Pro Bowl game. And then they'd go through the whole white team and they're naming all these players. And then they got to defensive back and they had dude from Remember the Titans on there. And
he was a liability, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. And McCaffrey was the other corner that they would line up out there. So I just thought that was kind of funny with it, that it was like competitive except for that one position. They just couldn't find anyone to put that one position or anything to that effect with it.
Exactly. So, Aiden's talking about Troy.
That was always kind of funny to me as far as what that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I thought overall, obviously.
What's your thoughts about this last game?
Oh, this last game, yeah.
He tried to play corner.
Yeah, he tried. Like, I thought I actually had a lot of fun with that whole black versus white game. Like, I didn't like the statement from him. Like, I thought that was a little ignorant. But the game was kind of fun, man. Like, putting the roster together was a little fun and goofy, right? But anyway, back to the game. Like, hey,
It really was.
Baker Mayfield, that dude, like you said, he's a gamer. And, he ended up making that last bad throw. And he was kind of treating that almost as if it was a fourth down throw, and I wish he hadn't have done that. But I still stand behind the way he played. I mean, Buccaneers, do you really think they're another team? Did they really feel like at the beginning of this year that they were going to be playing in the divisional round? I doubt it. So good job on them. They actually had 408 yards of offense in this game and 6.8 yards per play in this game. So their offense was actually a little bit better than the Lions' offense. But they had some turnovers, so that's what cost them. Again, turnovers is the difference. Completion percentage, Jared Goff was better, 69.8% completion percentage versus a 63% completion percentage for your boy. 319 yards passing, though, out of Baker, 277 out of Goff. Passing touchdowns, Baker had 3 of them, but he had the 2 picks. So, it's a tough game for them. You hate to see it, but like you said, I don't know. if they planned on being here. So good job on them on bringing a season together that really wasn't supposed to be. The Lions ran the ball. I don't want to say they ran it as efficiently as the Buccaneers did, because the Buccaneers had 5.9 yards of carry. They just only did it 15 times in the whole game. They should have ran the ball a little bit more. The Lions, 26 carries, 114 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, and 2 rushing touchdowns. So we're kind of seeing a little bit of a trend here where, hey, if you can run the football and you can score running the football, you're probably going to win a football game. So that's kind of my thoughts on
And
it.
for me, that's actually effective against Tampa because Tampa has one of the top run defenses. Oh, oh no, we're good. Like I said, that's to me that was effective because Tampa Bay has one of the top run defenses. So for Detroit to be able to do that against them, to me was phenomenal as far as what that goes. Um, but Detroit's biggest issue is going to be their off, or not Detroit, but Tampa Bay's biggest issues is going to be their off-season issues when those things start to pop up for them because they're going to have a lot of players to re-sign and they got some older players and they're going to have to make some decisions on some guys there as far as that goes. But Tampa started off strong, hit a losing skid, came back strong toward the end of the season. We'll see how they end up finishing up or going into next year and things to that effect with it. But like I said, Detroit, Jared Goff, he's going to be the key to this game, like always. What I'm really curious on is if Aaron Glenn's going to go back to more of his man-to-man defense or if he's going to stay more zone. He's implemented more zone this year to get away from man, but he still is in his heart, he's a pressure man-to-man type guy. And playing against Shanahan, he knows how to really take advantage of that with his play calling. So I'm curious on how that chess match is going to actually play out as far as that goes this week. What do you think?
Yeah, it is a chess match, and I really do like Aaron Glenn and what he's done. I'll be completely honest. I love Shanahan as a coach. I like the guy. I'm not in love with their offensive scheme. It's not what I would like to do. I think you take away the run game and the rest of that offense kind of falls apart, if that makes any kind of sense. Like they're kind of predicated on play action and all that kind of stuff in the passing game. So if you can completely shut that run game down, which is a lot easier said than done, then I would put, if I'm Aaron Glenn, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm going to put this entire game on Brock Purdy's shoulders, and I'm going to say beat me. That's what I'm going to do. Do you feel differently? You're a defensive coordinator. Would you do it differently?
No, that's how I would do it. I don't disagree with you, especially if Debo's not playing. That's definitely the route that you got to go. If Debo doesn't crack the lineup, you just got to key on McCaffrey and say, Purdy, if you beat me, hats off to you. That's just kind of the role you got to take with that if it's going to be that type of situation, especially with no Debo Samuel. Put your best guy on Ayuk, and then just go to town with it and just let the game play out the way it's going to play out. Detroit's going to blitz because they don't have much of a pass rush situation other than Hutchinson. So we'll see how things play out with that as far as that goes. But I do agree with you. I'm committing to the run. I'm trying to shut down McCaffrey, and someone else is going to have to beat me.
Yeah, man. I think, what was that stat you gave earlier in this segment when you were talking about how many times they tried to get the ball to McCaffrey?
They ran 64 plays, I believe, and they tried to get it to him 39 times is what they tried to get it to him in the last game.
That's nuts to me. Especially when you got Ayuk and Kittle. Like, what are you doing? That's the kind of stuff I don't love.
Well, it's like
the offense. Go ahead.
But it's like I said. I think when Debo went out, I think that kind of threw off everything else that they wanted to do. So I get it. I think that really messed up a lot of what they wanted to do passing wise. So I somewhat get it from that standpoint. And it was pouring rain that game, big rainstorm when they were playing Green Bay. So that probably had a little bit of effect with it as well.
Yeah. So and Marlon is in the chat and he says Debo needs to be Debo or Frisco could be in trouble. And 100% agree, Marlon. They kind of need one of those special Debo games, I think, because he does make the offense special. I would just like to say to 49ers fans, because, hey, man, I know I love y'all, and it's all great, and I'm happy for you guys. But don't you ever bring the 99 Rams up ever again. You are not the 99 Rams. That offense is not that. It is not. Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. The 99 Rams would have put up 45 points on that Buccaneers
You've
defense.
got 49ers friends saying that?
Yes. Can you believe that? Like, and they're using statistical comparisons.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry, dude. CMC is the closest thing on that team to what the 99 Rams were, but you got to remember Marshall Faulk that year had 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving. And then you had Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holtz, and then you had Azazir Hakim. And, dude, like, it just kept going and going and going with that team. There was no stopping those guys. And I know, I get it. What the 49ers guys are going to say is that they had a 1,000-yard receiver, they had a 1,000-yard tight end, and a 1,000-yard rusher. And there's probably some crazy LeBron stat out there that's never been done. But to me, I don't think of this year's iteration of the 49ers offense as a 99 Rams. I'm sorry, man. Like, it's not there for me. Do you? Do you think of them as an all-time great offense?
No, they're nowhere near that. They're nowhere near that.
Is it? Where would you put this 49ers offense?
I like what they do. I like their play calling.
They are a tough
where would
offense.
I put it?
Yeah, where would you put it?
It's more of their play calling. I just think Shanahan's a great play caller, takes advantage of situations, but to me, it's not like it's a overly explosive offense, if that makes sense. It's not like, to me, it's not an offense where you just line someone up and you just say, it doesn't matter what you do defensively, we're going to do whatever we want to do. He just takes advantage and is a great play caller, and that's what I like about Shanahan.
Well, I don't want to make it sound like they don't have weapons, because they do have weapons. Ayuk's a weapon. Debo's a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Kittle is a weapon. Even Kyle Juszczyk is a weapon, and of course CMC's a weapon. But I think with all those weapons, I think it almost argues against their argument of being the 99 Rams, because arguably maybe you got more weapons than the 99 Rams had, but you're not the same team. Like that 99 Rams team was scary, dog. Like they will score in a heartbeat. They'll score in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by the difference of them. To me, this 49ers offense, other than really Debo and we'll say McCaffrey, because those two are both just super dynamic players. Mm-hmm. All their other players, and Kittle's is better than any tight end that Rams team had.
Yeah, definitely.
You can put the way he runs his offense, you can put players, and the offense is still going to be super effective, I guess is my more big of a take on it, just because he's a great play caller. That's my biggest takeaway from him.
I agree to an extent. Like, I would probably put them somewhere around 6 or 7 on the list of scary offenses of all time, which is still pretty damn high. You're top 10, man. So, like, be happy with that. I would be ecstatic with that. But you're talking about the 99 Rams. You're talking about some of those Manning teams. You're talking about some of those Saints teams. Let's be real. You're talking about probably the 18 Chiefs where they had 50-something passing touchdowns and 5,000 yards. Like, come on, man. You ain't them.
No, man. I'll be honest. I think you're being nice putting them top 10. I wouldn't put this 49ers offense in the top 10 offensive NFL all time. To me, they're not even close to that. They're good. They're nowhere near a top 10 offense of all time, in my opinion. I'm not even being biased or anything or hatred. They're not a top 10 offense. They're a good offense. They do their thing. They're not top 10 or nowhere near that type of situation. So I'll argue that all day with any 49er fan that would want to come up and try to have that conversation with me, and I'll.
Oh, brother!
I don't really care about that one, man.
That's some stuff we can do this offseason for sure. Is maybe we can look at some of these units And like the Ravens defense, we called them historic earlier. I don't know. I haven't done enough research to sit there and say they are factually historic. I mean, we need to look at that and see. Maybe we can do some of that kind of stuff. I know we talked about doing maybe an awards type show. Maybe that's something we talk about too. Is anything happen? Is any team that did anything this year historic? Because let's be honest, the offense was historically low across the league. So the fact that the 49ers were up there in offense isn't all that impressive to me because nobody was all that good on offense at all year. Like offense was down all year across the board,
No,
mainly because all the quarterbacks were out.
I'll tell you this. Ravens defense is really good. I would say the Chiefs defense was more historic than the Ravens defense. The fact that the Chiefs didn't give up one 30-point game this year with the way offenses are wide open,
Yeah,
in my
that was
opinion.
really good. That was really good. And I don't think our defense is going to be as good next year. I think we'll probably balance out a little bit next year with offense and defense. So we'll see, man. But yeah, so I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with that game. What else do we have to talk about? Are we to wrap up point, or do we have other stuff to talk about?
Well, since yeah, well, just real quick, since we were just talking about historic, I am a
Yeah.
76er fan. Props to Joel Embiid, 70-point game the other day. Granted, it was against a Spurs team that is absolute trash right now, but Wembanyama will be coming up and coming player. Pop will have that team playing soon and everything else. But 70 points is 70 points in a victory. So props to Embiid. I never thought I would ever say he would be the top player in the league at this point of his career. But
Mm-hmm.
to me, right now, he is probably the most unstoppable player. And I know we'll probably get into some more basketball and stuff later, but as a Sixer fan, I just got to give props to him and the way that squad is playing right now because they're
Yeah, it's
above where I thought they would be.
You're right. It is called sports, right? It's called Mad Sports Talk, and it's been really football centric lately. But we started in the NFL playoffs, so kind of give us a break there a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that for real, man. For him to have the performance that he had, and I loved watching him in his 1 year at Kansas. I am a Kansas basketball fan. I grew up watching the Jayhawks and stuff like
Wait,
that. So
wait. Just a second. Just a second. Just a second.
Go ahead.
You
I'll
know what I'm going to
explain it.
say, right?
I already know. Go ahead. I'll explain it.
Okay. K-State football,
Yeah. Yeah.
Kansas basketball. Just explain that real quick.
Okay. Yeah. So I will explain that real quick. So number one, like back
Yeah,
then,
explain that.
growing up, like I kind of told you why I'm a Lakers fan, and it had to do with what was on TV. Um, Number one, Kansas
Yeah.
State basketball was never on TV ever. Like until cable sports and stuff was on, like you couldn't watch a Kansas State basketball game to save your life. So it wasn't really even an option back then because it wasn't like you get on your smartphone and check the Kansas State basketball scores. Like not a thing. But also, I really wasn't even a Kansas State football fan until Kansas State pursued me as a recruit. And I got to meet Bill Snyder and go do all that kind of stuff. So once I started getting letters and they were the team that was more interested in me, I was actually a Mizzou football fan growing up for the most part. But I was a little hurt when Mizzou didn't reach out to me and they had zero interest in me as a football player. But Kansas State did. So, and also right about that time, I played in high school against Darren Sproles and a lot of those guys that ended up going on and playing at K-State. So I definitely watched Darren Sproles play at K-State. And, I would have played with him. He was a year older than me. I would have been his fullback.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I kind of screwed up and got in trouble and did a bunch of knuckleheaded things that kept me from going to play any kind of significant college football. But yeah, that's why I'm a K-State football fan. As far as basketball, I was never any good at it, so I just stuck with my Jayhawks. And yeah, they were always good, but that's also like I grew up 30 minutes from their stadium, and it's not like hey, I switched to them when they became good. They were kind of always good. And growing up watching them, that's what was on TV. So that's my college basketball team. But in all transparency, I'm really not that big of a college basketball fan. Not anymore. I used to watch them a lot back when like Mario Chalmers and all those dudes were on the team, and I definitely remember even back further than that, like Scott Pollard and all those guys. I mean, those were fun to watch too. But yeah, college basketball has never been like a diehard thing for me. But yeah, I'm a Jayhawks fan. I don't own any Jayhawks gear or anything like that, but they're the team I cheer for, and that's why. I do pull for Kansas State.
I just had to figure that one out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, I do pull still for Kansas State basketball because now they are available and you can watch them, and I do watch them. But I don't know. I never gave up on the Jayhawks, but it's also not important to me. So I don't know. It's kind of like college baseball. I don't really have a college baseball team. I don't know, like whoever I like at the time. Honestly,
baseball team.
Yeah. I barely have a MLB team, honestly. Like, I'm a Royals fan, but it's hard. It's hard to be a Royals fan.
It's hard to be a Mets fan. Mets lost to the Royals in the World Series. I can't do nothing. On the standpoint of it.
Yeah, that was a fun World Series for me. But yeah, I just I get bitter at the Royals because they're one of those teams that's just like, dude, you finally do a bunch of good drafting, you put a good team together, and then you don't want to pay anybody. You don't want to pay anybody. So I know the city kind of felt betrayed too, because we had that run where we went to, I don't know, we won one World Series. I think we lost the other World Series, but we were good for a good time there. Or did we win two? I think we won one. At any rate, like
one.
Yeah, we won one, lost the other. We had that run where you're in it all the time there for a couple, 2, 3, 4 years, and that was really fun. And the city was packing out the stadium and really putting the support behind the team. And I'm sure the Royals made a ton of money during that time frame. But then they proceeded to go right back to the way they always do and be cheap and not pay a single anybody. No. And it was like, okay, guys, like if that's what you're gonna do, then fine. Like, call me when you put some money and I'll come back to the stadium then. So that's kind of where it's been with the Royals. I thought the new owner would be a little more aggressive, and he hasn't been, to my knowledge. So I got to catch up on baseball as well because I have not been following baseball as closely. But I'm not switching teams or anything like that. I just haven't been following it as closely as I did a few years ago. Even before they were ever even a thought to go to the World Series, I was following them pretty closely because we live in Omaha, and you can go right over to the Storm Chasers and see their AAA team and see a lot of their young guys. And when Lorenzo Cain and all those guys were at the Storm Chasers, that was a really fun time to be at a Storm Chasers game because they had a really talented farm system, and that was the group of guys that came up out of the Storm Chasers and took the Royals to those two World Series. But then we just said goodbye to all of them. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with
what baseball teams do sometimes, man. Yeah, they do. It's what they do sometimes. I'm going to get you into it, man. I told you I'm going to get you into this, but Royal Rumble's coming up this weekend.
Okay.
WWE. I'm going to get you back into it. I know you said you followed it when The Rock and Stone Cold and all them were there.
Yep.
I'm gonna get you back into that. I love it. My kids got me back into that. They don't even watch it anymore though, but I still love it.
Yeah, man. Back in like junior high, late elementary school, all that kind of stuff, was super into it. They had back then like the Wolfpack in the WCW, NWO, all that kind of stuff was super cool. Sting, I really liked Sting. And then WWE later on took over everything, and that was super fun as well. So, yeah, Stone Cold, and Stone Cold. I love the Undertaker, Kane, and of course The Rock. So yeah, but I don't know the new guys. I listen to McAfee. I know you listen to McAfee, and he's super into it. So I'm definitely open to getting into it. Seems fun. Seems like
No,
at least something fun to
that's
talk
my
about.
goal ultimately is to get you back into that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
And speaking
we'll
of
talk
getting
about
people
it off
into
camera on
stuff,
occasion, and I'll get you into it.
speaking of stuff to get into, bro, have you watched any episodes of The Wire?
No, not yet.
Oh no!
I got rid of my Max subscription. I got rid of the Max subscription, so I got to get back into it though.
Oh, dude, I might go get you the Blu-ray collection or something, man. It's a funny thing. Do you own a Blu-ray player? I have one Blu-ray player in my house.
I don't know. I think the PlayStation 5 still plays Blu-ray. I don't know.
Oh
I
yeah,
got the
yeah,
PlayStation,
it
so I'm assuming if it does, yeah. So that's my Blu-ray player, yeah. But
fair
I
enough.
haven't bought a Blu-ray disc in however long it's been. I don't know.
I kind of miss those days, man. I miss those days of buying the Blu-ray collection of something. Like I had the Blu-ray collection of The Wire. Well, kind of. One of my buddies had it, and he gave it to me while he was deployed. So I had it for several months and kind of watched the whole series on DVD back in the day. That's how I fell in love with The Wire, because I never had HBO back then because I was a poor airman. But got into it on the Blu-ray discs and stuff. So that was awesome, man. And then eventually he was like, "Hey, bro, you got my Wire?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'll give it back, man."
Hey, I'll be honest, man. I got probably 100 movies on DVD in storage right now.
What are we gonna do with
every
them?
Tuesday used to be my day because I was with. I don't know. Tuesday was a new release DVD day. So every Tuesday I would go to the store, check out the new releases. If I didn't like a new release, I would just buy an older movie that I always liked. And that was just my tradition for years that I used to do.
For
and
sure.
then that ended up stopping. But yeah, I probably got at least 100 movies just sitting in storage and DVDs. I thought about possibly selling them if anyone wanted to get them. I don't know how many people actually have a DVD player anymore or anything like that.
I don't know, man.
I got some good movies in there.
My brother is super mad. He's actually a lot younger than me, which is surprising that he's mad about the whole physical media stuff. He hates the fact that there is no more physical media because I think for him it was like a really big thing. And I know even for me when I was younger, I'm still into video games. I still play video games, but it was a big deal on Tuesdays was new release for video games too. You go in like Tuesday night or whatever, and you wait in line at Walmart for the new copy of the NCAA game, right? Or whatever. And take the next day off of work so you could play all day and get your dynasty rolling and all that, which was fun, dude. I miss those kind of days, and those are long gone. You just download it ahead of time and sit in your house. But yeah,
those were the good days. Those are the good old days, man. Good old days. I can tell you some stories about. I'll just tell you one quick story about me and video games. Me and my buddy Jerison, the hat guy.
Yep.
You just met him just the other day.
Yep. Shout out to Jerison.
When the original Tecmo Bowl came out. Yeah. Yep. When the original Tecmo Bowl came out with Kevin Mack at running back, Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen, where we only had the 4 plays you could pick from. Me and him used to walk over a mile to Richmond Gordman at the time because they had the video game Tecmo Bowl set up in the aisles, and we would make a tournament bracket and play that game for about 2 to 3 hours at a time in the store, just sitting there.
Yeah, man, they had the demo games.
They actually had to put a time limit on the game. Yes.
Yeah.
They actually had to put a time limit on the game for me and him to stop playing it. Like, we would seriously walk and do this, and then we would write down our stats. Like, was that a 4-yard game? And then we'd write it down for the players and stuff like that, man. That's what we used to do back in the day.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. And I know, like, you played some of the you played some of the more modern games too. I know you don't play much anymore, but you play some of the modern games before you quit playing, right? Like you used to play.
I used to be in a couple Madden leagues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be in a couple Madden leagues. Used to do that. That's gone by the wayside a little bit.
Are you gonna buy the new college football game when it comes out in July?
Does it come out in July? Have they actually announced it?
They haven't announced an actual release date, but it's going to come out. Yeah. Maybe early August at the latest.
Been waiting for years, man. I'll probably give it a shot. I mean,
Me too.
I'm sure I'll give it a shot. I'm sure
I
I
hate
will. I'm sure I'll
Madden.
give it a shot. I'm
Madden
not
is
gonna lie.
trash.
Yeah.
It's the worst game ever, dude. Like that whole thing is ended. But I still buy it every year because I'm an addict and I have to have a football game. So I still buy it every year. But next year, I'm still going to be giving my money to EA Sports, I suppose. But I'm going to buy the college football game and not buy Madden. You know, I spend all my time on leagues with college football, so that'll be fun. I'm excited about that. I remember, like, those were always for me, like when we were young in the Air Force. We'd be in the dorms, or even later on when I was married, like my buddies would come over to the house and we would take turns on PlayStation or Xbox or whatever, playing each other in college football. And I was always really, really good at the triple option because that's what we ran for most of my high school career. So like I understood what we were trying to do there. And I would just beat people over the head with the triple option, man. Loved it. So bringing it back.
I see Perry saying you'll buy some movies from me.
Yep. He says you can't own digital content.
Stuff like that, man.
Well, I think when they say that you can't own digital content, they're probably just trying to keep themselves from being sued if it somehow becomes unavailable. Because, like, I own movies on Amazon. You know, I own a few movies on Amazon.
Yeah.
And if they ever took those away, I would have a beef with that, man. Like if I all of a sudden can't access that, I paid for it to own it. Like I want to watch it whenever I want.
Especially if you purchased it. Yeah, if you purchased it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think
that should be yours. You purchased it and everything else, man.
Yep. Like if you can no longer provide me that digital copy, you need to send me a physical copy. You know, or let me download it.
But hey, man, looking forward to seeing your Chiefs this weekend. We've been on for quite a while, been going at it for quite a while and everything else. But I'm looking forward to seeing your Chiefs versus the Ravens this weekend. Good luck to you. If you guys lose, just look for me on Facebook. You'll get alerted. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. That knows me. About what you get alerted about.
Yeah.
You will get alerted, so don't be mad.
I hope I don't see that.
I don't fans that I know.
I don't want to see that GIF.
It's just the one thing I got. That's my one bitter pill that I do to all fans, man. That's my one bitter pill that I do.
Right on, man.
Yeah, that's
all right, brother. Well,
I deal with it.
Hey, I think that's a good place to end it and sign off. I appreciate you, everybody. Hey, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the whole stream. If you just stumbled on this and you're watching it after we've recorded, please like, share, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. We don't ask a whole lot during the stream, which I probably should ask at least one other time midstream or something. But I think just if you're giving people value, they're going to like and subscribe and do all that stuff for you anyway. But just in case you didn't know, it helps us. It helps us with the algorithm, and we are trying to grow the channel. So please help us out with that. With that, I think we'll sign off.
Definitely.
You have anything left, man?
All right. No, that's all I got, man. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds.
All right.
Love you guys.
See you guys.